Listen closely. What you're about to hear will change everything. Most men talk themselves out of attraction. They explain. They chase. They fill every silence with words, and they lose her. Not because they said the wrong thing, but because they said too much. Before we go deeper, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to tell you the truth. The kind of truth that makes you uncomfortable. The kind that rebuilds you from the ground up. Subscribe, and let's continue. Now let's get into it. Silence is power, but most men don't understand that. They think connection is built through conversation, through explaining how they feel, through constant reassurance. It's not. Real attraction grows in the space between words, in the tension you refuse to fill, in the moments where you hold back, where you let her sit with her own thoughts. That's where her mind starts racing. That's where she begins to fear losing you. Not because you're playing games, but because you're grounded in yourself. You see, women are drawn to presence, not performance, not trying hard, not desperate attempts to keep her entertained. Presence is silent. It's calm. It's unmoved. When you stop talking, something happens. She notices. She feels the shift. And that shift creates gravity. She starts wondering what you're thinking, what you're feeling, whether she still has your attention. And that uncertainty, that tension is magnetic. Most men fear silence. They think if they're not talking, they're boring. If they're not texting back immediately, they'll lose her interest. So they fill the void, they send paragraphs, they explain their day in detail, they react to everything she says. And in doing so, they become predictable. Predictable is comfortable. Comfortable is forgettable. But silence, real silence, is unforgettable. It makes her feel something. And feelings are what she remembers. Not your words, not your explanations, your presence, your absence. The space you create by not always being available. This isn't about ignoring her. It's about having a life that doesn't revolve around her. It's about being someone who doesn't need constant validation. Someone who's okay with quiet. Someone who doesn't need her to feel whole. When you stop needing her, she starts wanting you. That's the shift. That's the truth most men refuse to accept because it requires you to let go, to stop controlling the outcome, to stop managing her emotions. And that's terrifying for a man who's been taught to chase. But here's what happens when you embrace silence. You stop being reactive. You stop living in her frame. You start operating from your own center. And she feels that. She feels the difference between a man who needs her approval and a man who's simply present. One is draining. The other is intoxicating. Silence forces her to come to you, to initiate, to invest, to prove that she's worth your time. And when she does, she's more engaged, more curious, more emotionally present because she's no longer being chased. She's doing the chasing, not because you manipulated her, but because you stopped trying so hard. You see, the masculine energy is not about words. It's about action, about decisiveness, about being unmoved by her moods. When you talk too much, you're seeking her approval. You're trying to explain yourself into her good graces. And that's feminine energy. It's reactive. It's validation seeking. It repels attraction. Masculine energy is different. It's quiet. It's certain. It doesn't need to explain. It doesn't need to justify. It simply is. And that presence, that certainty is what she craves. Not your explanations, not your constant attention, your groundedness. Most men don't realize this until it's too late. They lose her because they never learn to be silent. They never learn to let tension build. They never learn that sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing. Just be, just exist in your own frame and let her come into it. When you do that, something shifts in her mind. She starts to see you differently, not as someone who's chasing her, but as someone she might lose. And that fear, that possibility awakens something in her. It makes her pay attention. It makes her invest. It makes her work to keep your interest. And that's when real attraction happens. Not when you're trying, but when you stop. Now, I'm not saying be cold. I'm not saying be distant for the sake of it. I'm saying be a man who has purpose beyond her. A man who doesn't drop everything when she texts. A man who has boundaries, who has standards, who doesn't bend himself to fit her mood. That's the man she fears losing. Not the one who's always available, not the one who's always explaining, the one who's grounded, the one who's silent, the one who doesn't need her validation to feel like a man. Silence also reveals intention. When you stop talking, you stop performing, you stop trying to impress. And what's left is the real you, the version of you that doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. And that version is powerful because it's honest. It's not trying. It's not pretending. It just exists. And she feels that. She knows when you're performing. She knows when you're trying too hard, and it turns her off. But when you're silent, when you're present, when you're just being, she can't read you as easily. And that creates intrigue. That creates mystery. That creates attraction because she doesn't know what you're thinking. She doesn't know if she has you. And that uncertainty keeps her engaged, keeps her investing, keeps her wanting more. This is not manipulation. This is self-respect. This is understanding that your attention is valuable, that your time is valuable, that you don't give it away freely to anyone who shows interest. You give it to someone who earns it, someone who matches your energy, someone who respects your silence as much as your words. And when you operate from that place, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop explaining. You start being. And she notices. She feels the shift. And she starts fearing that she might lose you, not because you threatened to leave, but because you're no longer desperate to stay. That's the difference. A man who's desperate will do anything to keep her. A man who's grounded will walk away if it's not right. And she knows the difference. She feels it in your silence, in your calm, in your refusal to react. Most men react. They get emotional. They defend. They explain. They try to fix things with words, and it never works because words without presence are empty. They're just noise. But silence with presence is full. It's weighted. It communicates more than 1,000 words ever could. It says, I'm okay without you. It says, I have my own life. It says, I'm not going to beg for your attention. And those unspoken messages are what she hears loudest. They're what make her stop and think. They're what make her question. They're what make her fear losing you because she realizes you're not like the other men, the ones who chase, the ones who explain, the ones who break themselves to keep her happy. You're different. You're silent. You're grounded. You're unmoved, and that's rare. That's powerful. That's attractive. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men won't do this because it requires letting go. It requires trusting yourself. It requires being okay with the possibility that she might walk away. And that's terrifying. But it's also necessary because if she walks away from your silence, from your groundedness, from your self-respect, then she was never yours to begin with. She was only attracted to the performance, to the version of you that bent over backwards. And that version isn't sustainable. It's exhausting. It's soul draining. It's not real. But the silent version, the grounded version, the self-respecting version, that's real. That's the version that attracts a woman who's actually worth your time, a woman who respects your silence, who values your presence, who doesn't need constant reassurance, who's secure enough to sit in the tension with you. That's the woman you want, not the one who needs you to perform, not the one who needs constant validation, the one who can handle your silence, who can sit with you in it, who finds peace in it. That's partnership. That's attraction. That's real. Everything else is just noise. So stop talking so much. Stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to fill every silence. Let it sit. Let it breathe. Let her feel it. And watch what happens. Watch how she starts reaching out more, how she starts asking questions, how she starts investing, because she's no longer sure she has you. And that uncertainty is what keeps attraction alive. Not certainty, not constant reassurance, uncertainty, tension, the space between words. That's where desire lives. That's where she starts to fear losing you. Not because you told her to, but because you showed her. Through your silence, through your presence, through your refusal to chase. And that's a language she understands deeply, more than any words you could ever say. So be silent, be grounded, be present, and let her come to you. Let her invest. Let her prove herself, because you're not just any man. You're a man who knows his value, who doesn't give his attention away for free, who respects himself enough to walk away if it's not right. And that man, that version of you, is the one she fears losing. Not the one who chases, not the one who explains, the one who's silent, the one who's still, the one who's unmoved. That's power. That's attraction. That's truth. And once you embody that, everything changes. She changes. The dynamic changes. The relationship changes because you're no longer operating from need. You're operating from choice, and choice is freedom. Freedom is attractive. Desperation is not. So choose silence, choose presence, choose yourself. And watch how the right woman responds. She won't run. She'll lean in. She'll invest. She'll respect you because you respected yourself first. And that's the foundation of everything. Self-respect. not games, not manipulation, just a man who knows his worth and refuses to settle for less. That's the man she fears losing. That's the man she wants to keep. That's you. When you stop talking and start being, let me tell you something else. Silence protects your energy. Every time you over-explain, you leak power. Every time you justify yourself, you give away your frame. Every time you react to her tests, you fail them. Silence keeps you centered. It keeps you in control. Not control over her, control over yourself. And that's what matters. Most men don't understand Tess. They think she's genuinely upset. They think she needs an explanation. They think they did something wrong, so they scramble. They apologize. They explain. They try to make it right. And in doing so, they prove they're weak. Because a strong man doesn't react. He observes. He stays calm. He remains silent. And he lets her emotions pass through him without absorbing them. That's strength. That's masculine presence. That's what makes her feel safe, not your words, your unshakable calm. When you can sit in silence while she's emotional, you show her something profound. You show her that you're not controlled by her mood, that you're not dependent on her approval, that you're solid. And that solidity is what she's looking for, not someone who crumbles, not someone who needs her to be happy so he can be happy, someone who's happy regardless, someone who's at peace in the silence, someone who doesn't need the validation of constant conversation. That's the man who stands out. That's the man who's different. That's the man she can't manipulate. And when she can't manipulate you, she respects you. When she respects you, she's attracted to you. When she's attracted to you, she fears losing you. It all connects. It all starts with silence, with your ability to be comfortable in it, to not fill it with neediness, to not break it with insecurity. Most men break. They can't handle the tension. They need to know everything's okay. They need reassurance. They need her to confirm that she still likes them. And that need destroys attraction because it shows you don't trust yourself. It shows you're looking for her to complete you. It shows you're operating from lack. But when you're silent, you operate from abundance. You show that you're complete already, that you don't need her words to feel secure, that you're okay with or without her validation. And that abundance is magnetic. It draws her in. It makes her curious. It makes her want to be part of your world. Not because you're chasing her, but because you're not. You're just living. You're just being. You're just silent. And that silence speaks volumes. It tells her you have options. It tells her you have standards. It tells her she needs to earn your attention. And when she feels that, she steps up. She invests more. She tries harder. She becomes the version of herself that's worthy of you, not because you demanded it, but because your silence inspired it. That's leadership. That's masculine energy. That's what she craves but can't articulate. She doesn't want you to talk more. She wants you to be more present, more grounded, more certain. And all of that comes from silence, from the ability to sit with yourself, to be comfortable alone, to not need constant stimulation or validation. When you develop that, you become rare, you become valuable, you become the man she doesn't want to lose. And it all starts with something so simple: silence, the willingness to say less, to observe more, to be present without performing. That's the shift. That's the transformation. That's what changes everything. So practice it, starting today. Stop over texting. Stop over explaining. Stop filling every gap in conversation. Let the silence exist. Let it stretch. Let it create tension. And watch what happens. Watch how she responds. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Watch how she starts chasing you. Because you stop chasing her, you stop giving away your power, you stop being predictable, and you became the mystery she wants to solve, the challenge she wants to win, the man she fears losing, all through silence, all through presence, all through self-respect. That's the path. That's the truth. That's what I want you to take from this. Now, before you go, subscribe to this channel. We're building a community of men who choose themselves, who refuse to play small, who understand that silence is strength. Hit that button. Stay connected and keep choosing yourself every single day because you're worth it. And the right woman will see that when you stop trying to prove it with words and start showing it through silence.